Hey everybody, LordGamolth here. Today I'm going to be making a small video talking about how the ranking system works in this game, how to make a good amount of style points, and just explain the ins and outs of the system, really, that a lot of people have been wondering and asking. Because a lot of people are wondering, like, why do I not make good amounts in the end, or what does this mean in the style score system, and etc, etc. Like, a lot of people just don't quite understand that, so I'm going to explain that in this video, or to what I can. It'll be a little difficult, mind you, but... So first things off that people need to remind and remember is that this game's style system is based off an average base value. And how that works is that every fight that you do, that you complete in this game, you'll get a final number at the end of each fight, which will tell you how much style points you have. And that number will carry on to the next fight and the next fight of the mission. But how it works is whenever you complete another fight, your number changes. And a lot of people are wondering, well, how is that number determined? That number is determined by the previous fight that you did and the current fight that you did, and then the game takes the average of those two fights and averages them together to get the number that you see on the latest fight that you've done. And it just keeps doing that throughout the mission and tallies it as, or it doesn't tally, but it keeps averaging as it goes. So eventually you will reach the end of the mission, and the final number at the end of the mission that you see at the very end before a results screen is actually your final style point total at the end, or your final style average. So then what the game does is after that final number, which is what truly matters, is then the game will give you multipliers with it in the results screen, which in most cases will be no damage and no continues. Then it takes those multipliers and times it with your final stylish value, and then you get your final total number at the very end. And that ends up being your final score. Also, there are negative multipliers as well, so yeah. First of all, the good multipliers are no damage and no continues. The negative multipliers, as far as I know, are no super characters. I mean, using super characters, using continues, and using the assist thing that you get as well, style assist or whatever, which I just found out about last night, so I don't really know too much about that. But the point is it's a negative multiplier that's used against you, since it's like using automatic mode. So yeah, that final number in the end will reflect on everything you've done. So how every fight in this game basically works is the devs have a preset value built into every fight in the mission. And why some values are easier and harder to make than others really depends on the fight itself. At first we thought it was influenced by the enemies that were put into the mission itself, but it turns out that's not completely the case. But certain enemies do tend to have more values than others. Like, for example, like Furies are just not worth much in general. Maybe it's because of their low hit point value, maybe it's just what the devs set, I don't know. And then you have enemies like Behemoth, who tend to be worth a lot usually. At least that's from far as what I know. So now a lot of people are wondering, well, how do you make these good amounts? Well, I'm going to try to show you an example in this mission. Hopefully this time I don't mess it up, because the last video I did, which kind of annoyed me. So, let's show it. So the first fight I'm going to show here, it's just going to be a basic fight without any style grinding of any kind, of any means. It's not going to be anything fantastic or amazing. So how the game works basically is, to make the highest amount of value points, is you want to get a triple S without damaging anything, or the highest loader that you can. And then you want to start inflicting damage. As you see here on this attempt, I'm just starting at a flat out D. Which is actually bad, because I'm losing points right from the starting of the fight. Okay. That was actually not great, but proves my point, though. That when you start at a low letter, it's hard to get up what you need. I swear, that little jerk has it out for me today. Nice, that helps. Trying to stun this dude right now. I can set him up for something else. Ah, come on. Okay, that's alright. Now I should make low 6k or 5k. 5k, as you see. Barely. I'm barely passing, or I'd be just barely failing by like 3 points on this difficulty. I did have an earlier attempt where I got 6k, so it's actually rather generous. So now, this is a fight where you just fight normally, and that was okay. I didn't get hit, it was decent, so whatever. Now I'm going to show you guys a fight where, if you do it, starting with triple S, and don't let the letter drop at all. So a lot of people are wondering, well, how the heck do you do that? Well, it's different for every character. But for Dante, you want to concentrate on mainly taunting and Royal Guard. Dante swords help too, but we don't want to hurt them at all for damage for the sake of demonstration. So we're going to go to the corner here and start doing the 3 mil taunt. And what's good about this taunt is it allows you to erase your letter without inflicting damage, and you can also use it as a buffer to keep your letter up by doing the starting of it every time, or just using it in general. Oh my god, these patterns are AIDS. What? Wow. This game's not being kind to me. Okay. Once you have that, kill them. Okay. That point. Okay, I gotta let go of this here, because the only way to unpause it for your quad S is to go to the pause menu. Wow, okay, come on. Also, that volcano move that I do, or whatever it's called, has a good amount of stun frames, so you always want to use that. And that's a good fight. Now, this should be the maximum value. I should get like 7.2. 7.299. This is the maximum value you're probably going to get. Or maybe 7.3 if you're lucky. So, you see what I mean? How it makes a huge difference to fight enemies like this? By doing this in fights, it allows you to hold your average value. Because on this difficulty, on Dante Must Die, you need to hold an average of 6,000 throughout the entire mission in order to just even pass. But the problem with this is some fights in the mission have lower or higher base value than others. Like this fight, for example, in general, is decent for style points. I wouldn't say it's bad because at top value you can achieve 7k, which means 6k is quite feasible. But there are some fights later, like for example, the single Fury, where you probably won't even get a style increase unless you kill him at triple S entirely. Otherwise, you're always going to drop your average. And this is what the devs don't understand. I'm not sure if they did this intentionally just to anger us. But for a mission like this, mission 10, where it's very long and most fights aren't worth anything, it's really hard to stay above 6k. Anyways, anyone's wondering what the points values to pass in this game are, they are technically 4,000 for human, 5,000 for Devil Hunter, 5,500 for Son of Sparta, and Hell in Hell. Dante Must Die is 6,000, and Heaven or Hell I think is 1,000. I'm not sure on that. You can quote me if I'm wrong on that one, but I've never had issues with that mode, so whatever. And that's really all there is to this, honestly. Now, there's a couple other things I could explain as well. I'm debating if I should. But anyways, this is how it works for Dante. I guess I could explain this part, in which I sort of already did, but I'm going to explain for the other two characters. Is that to get your combo up at the highest efficiency as possible, you want to keep your distance and try to go to a safe space and do the 3 taunt. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, but there's some missions in the game where you're going to be required to do this silly taunt. Like this mission, for example. Or 18. Since the style values are very tight there. You also have Royal Guard, which you can also use as well for Dante. And also, I didn't really show it to you, but you can also use Dante swords, or whatever they're called. And you can use them as protection to keep enemies away from you, or keep them at bay while you do the 3 taunt. Like this, for example. Well, this ends up being actually quite useful. So for example, it's like enemies are approaching behind you, right? Well, you could do minimal damage as possible while holding this behind you, for example. Or if there's a single enemy that's far that you can stun, and you got the taunt almost done, you can just throw it away like this, and send it towards them. Another version of this ability you can do, although I can't really show you guys here unless I spawn a fight. Well, maybe I could show it, but anyways, the other methods you could go into Devil Trigger with Gunslinger and activate DT and let the blades fire at the enemies to keep them away from you. Like, I'll show you an example, I guess. Again, these methods won't net you full point values, but they're good for keeping enemies at bay to get your letter up. Which I do here in a lot of cases. So you go to the corner here. Well, I'm going to wait just a tiny bit. Okay, 3 taunt. And just do that the entire time. So enemies like Judecca, for example, which is spawning right now, you can keep them at bay by doing this. Because this is an enemy at low value who doesn't end up really being worth that much. And there you go. You get an S without hardly doing anything. In normal cases, you would have to be chasing this particular enemy, which has an ability to super armor and teleport from every attack that you do, which means not only is it hard to maintain a letter, even though you could use a bit of the buffer with the 3 taunt, but in general, it's just hard to chain combos on this enemy. So you can't do anything with them unless you use the other enemies to your advantage, which by that point, they'll be near death, and you won't get any value for them as well. Which is why, for example, this fight is so terrible. So yeah, that's really the basics with Dante. But the other thing I forgot to mention to people as well that's also very useful is not only does the buffer of the 3 taunt here allow you to to like hold your letter, but you can also use it to like move forward in a mission like this. To like hold the letter in place, which obviously you can't see right now. But if you do that, you can carry that letter from, let's say, a finished fight that you just currently did. Well, you know what? I'm actually going to show you guys an example. But I'm going to have to load a different mission. Yeah, quit mission. Mission 12 is a great example. Because there's some fights where you could chain that particular letter that you got from one fight without ever completing the fight and go to the next fight and bring the letter there and use that to your advantage. But this particular strat only works if you did not kill the enemies in the current fight you're doing. Because when you kill the enemies in the current fight that you're doing, the game will automatically tally your average that you have, canceling out your current letter that you got. But if you don't finish the fight and don't damage them in any way, hence enemies that are worth nothing, and then bring it to the fight that's actually worth something, you can make more style points this way. I'm not going to complete this whole fight because honestly this fight's a pain in the ass, but I just want to show you guys and prove my point. Minus the loading screens, mind you, which are quite annoying, but you get used to it after a while, I guess. Not that that's a good thing. Bet you I'm going to try to show some Nero and V gameplay to demonstrate as well, but I don't have many good examples for them. They'll be much more basic to explain, I guess. Another mission I could show too, but unfortunately I'd have to go a little bit in the mission, would be 18, which would be going from the bottom area where the Impuzas are to the double fight with the Shadow and Griffin. You could carry up an S there as well without even fighting the Impuzas. But I have to fight Shadow and Griffin and get to that point, which I really don't feel like it. Or I'd say Griffin and Shadow. Okay, so what you want to do here is just, I don't know, try to taunt here. It doesn't always work, mind you. Probably won't. But we're going to use Royal Guard once again to prove the maximum value. So far they're quite passive. Okay, here they come. Alright, I also forgot to mention you could jump guard these guys to have more iframes in order to block. See how I'm holding the letter? Just keep doing that. Although you should try to provoke these guys if you can. Perfect. Got double. Almost have the triple. Also, if you're trying to run away, try to see if you can get the full triple. Perfect. Alright. At that point, dash away. Now see how your letter as it's dropping here? Start buffering. Perfect. That went perfectly to plan. And see, now you can start an entire fight here with triple S. Like that. So then this fight becomes worth maximum value as long as you hold your letter the entire time, which is quite useful. Normally in this particular strat I would have wanted to grind up my SDT gauge and I would have wanted to use the shock slam to hit everything so I could stun them and use them, but I didn't do it here because I don't really care. This is only for demonstration purposes. But as you see, it's quite useful. But you want to make sure you do not damage the previous set of enemies that you do not plan on fighting to get this strat up, because if you damage them, the low amount of values that you got from those particular enemies will get affected into this particular fight you're doing now. hence it'll count the average. But if you ignore a previous fight and don't bother with it and then carry that letter going into another fight, that average value will still be set at 0 at the previous value that you did, or whatever your previous value was, and it will stay at that number, and it will only calculate the number that you have for the fight you're doing. I'm not going to do this site because I don't want to. And if you want to see it, you can check my videos. But that's a basic example how it works. Now, that's pretty much all there really is to explain to it, but the last few things I'm going to prove or show or try is that Nero and V have their own ways of dealing with stuff, which is quite interesting. I'm trying to think what would be a good example, but I guess I'll show some basic stuff. At this point, I'm kind of improvising, really. But for Nero, the difference with Nero is what you want to do to raise your letter with this character is you want to raise your letter, or you want to snatch enemies while jump canceling off of them. You could, by doing that, you could at least get, I think, an A combo without even ever hitting them, which I'm going to show here. And you could pretty much start off this first Impusa right here that I'm about to show. Get at least a double to a triple S here, because I'm not sure if Nero can buffer his combo like Dante. He might to some extent, but it won't really help to get the letter up. Yeah, this is good enough, I guess. I think this is my original setup, maybe, for Mission 8, maybe? I don't know. It's been a while. But yeah, since Nero doesn't have Royal Guard, he has to resort to different tactics, is what I'm trying to say.
Dante.
Now this first fight, as we know, has a very low base value at a low letter. Because what most people do for this first fight is they just instantly start attacking, and then they just finish the enemies off, which I'm not going to go for max value here, but I'm going to try to. But I'm going to actually show you guys a couple examples. Same here. Luckily, this fight's much easier than the last one. So here, we're just going to straight up go for the kills. So, I don't know. There you go. Crappy average fight should get me about 4 or 5k. Yeah. But you see, this number here has a very low average base value since there's really no way to get your letter up quickly doing stuff here. And this fight is just not worth much in general at a low letter. Because in order to pass this particular mission, you want to have at least 6k going to the end. Obviously, you're going to make up for it on the next 2 fights. Well, at least the next fight, if it goes well. But the point is this first number really hurts your average, which means when you go into the next 2 fights, you could have a much higher number if it wasn't for this fight, is what I'm trying to say. So now I'm going to reset. And we're going to do the same thing, how to get your letter up with Nero. Alright.
Dante.
So, like, some people watch, like, XLH Gladiator. I think he demonstrated a few parts of how to do this, and I did it as well. It's really quite easy. First of all, make sure you're not using, the wire snatch with, what was it called? The one where you the one where you use the whip basically, and you don't want to use that particular breaker because the snatch will cause damage. So make sure you just use the normal snatch or the normal wire snatch. I'm going to use the normal devil snatch because this is what I'm used to. So then you just pull the enemy in and you just do this the entire time. And do stay have about an A, I'd say. The only problem with this tactic is that it takes kind of a while. Also, you can combine it with air taunts too if you want to speed this annoying process up. Also, air taunts are more effective than ground taunts in my opinion, for the simple fact that they're quick and they're instantaneous to get the letter up, where the ground taunts, besides the 3 mil taunt, require you to finish the entire taunt to get the bonus. Which in my opinion is not worth it because you're just probably going to get hit. They really nerfed it compared to Devil May Cry 4 is what I'm trying to say. There. And at that point, I don't think you're going to get much higher than an A. So at that point, hold the enemy as a shield and do the 3 mil taunt. There you go, max value. Also, you could use repetitive attacks at this point if you want. This should be the maximum value for this fight. 8,200. See how much of a difference that makes by fighting a fight like this. That's the point I'm trying to prove with this game, and what's wrong with the balance of the style system with this game. Because some fights are more or less balanced in each other. Like, for example, like the base value of like the first Mission 10 fight, like I've shown, is actually quite decent to some extent if you fight it normally. Like, you actually can make the 6k there. I just didn't get on that attempt. But here, fighting it normally, you're more than likely not going to make 6k on this fight. There's just no way, because these dudes die way too fast. So the way to make 6k is to do that. You don't have to go to the extent that I've done. I just wanted to show a perfect fight. But to get a perfect fight, as you see, it's a huge difference. And that's how you basically make combos with Nero. But if you have a safe spot to do a taunt while holding a shield, you technically would rather do that. And at the end of the taunt, if there's no taunt buffering in between, do an air taunt at the end to finish off to get double to triple. Alright, so that's it for that. Now, the last one I'm not going to go too in-depth with, because as much as I'd love to, but I explained this to a friend yesterday, is there's the exception of V as well. V is even worse in my opinion, for the simple fact that there's just no real way to not attack enemies with him to raise your letter before you do damage. For the simple fact that the only way that he can raise his letter against enemies is to basically stay away from the enemies entirely and just do the taunt. Because all of his attacks with Griffin, Shadow, and Nightmare all inflict damage. Every single one of them. So the moment you start hitting enemies with those 3 pets, you're already automatically losing points. But for his missions, there's a lot of cases where you have to do this, because if you don't, you cannot defend yourself from the onslaught of attacks that are going to be coming at you, since most enemies will rush you and attack you at the start. So the only option is you have to find a safe spot, or you have to use very weak attacks with Shadow and protect yourself and keep them off of you. I might show 2 examples here maybe, but the other one, I don't know if I can do it anymore. We'll see. Mission 5. Okay, this is not going to be a long example, but I'm going to show you the best way you can make points with this character, in all honesty. It's very simple, there's not much going on, but the key is, basically, is you want to have your 3 mil taunt and get into a safe spot and do the taunt while you use Shadow and Griffin to protect you. Mainly just Shadow. Since Griffin's attacks, a lot of them for the most part, don't have knockback on them to send the enemies flying or away from you, or to even stun them if they have moderate stun frames. Where Shadow can at least somewhat stun the enemy if they're near you. And also, some of its attacks can fully push away medium weight enemies. So, if you're probably wondering, well, okay, I don't want to use the 3 mil taunt, or I'm doing like a speed run or something and I don't have access to these abilities. Well, as much as I hate to admit it to you, it's kind of like tough shit, really, because... So, the only thing I can suggest to you, if you can make the orb limit, is you'll have to use enemy step and the air taunt to raise your letter, which is really your only other options. But as we all know, V's movements aren't as flexible as Nero and Dante, so it makes that kind of difficult. And once you have the letter of choice that you want, then I guess you could stay in a corner of some sort and then protect yourself with your pets while you're raising your letter up in some way. In my case, 3 mil taunt, but... Anyways, I'll just show you guys. I might fail this a few times, I don't know. So stay here. Keep the camera tilted towards the wall. And the moment an enemy approaches you, start attacking him immediately. There you go. And at that point, just attack them as you please. Bring in Nightmare if you want. This fight is particularly difficult for the simple fact that riots are very triggered to you using camera attacks, because the moment you focus on them with R1, they will instantly try to lunge at you from far with that air lunge and try to slam into you with that barrel flip, and it's really hard to avoid this move with V at times. So because of that, you got to be very careful what you do. Mind you, I'm rusty at this fight, which is why I just dropped my letter. But that's really the best way to raise your letter in this case, is to stay in the corner, attack to defend yourself a little bit. Luckily, the riots were pretty passive to me there. Once you have the S or the double S, which is around what you'll get, then just air taunt and you get the triple. Or a double if you can't get that. So that's the best you're going to get with this character, really. As for the next fight, you're probably thinking, well, what about enemies like Judecca? Well, in that case, try to go in an area where the Judecca can't get you, or he won't spawn until later, in this case, until later. For the second fight, basically, is I stay up where the crates are, and I do the 3 mil taunt there, because by going there, it takes a long time for the Impuzas and the Antinoras to come up where you are to attack you, so I can get most of the taunt off. And even if they get close to me, and I almost do get the taunt off, I can just defend myself with Shadow anyway. But you got to be careful with enemies like Antinora, because if you fully complete a full set of an attack string combo with Shadow, or do the Hedgehog spikes, it will send Antinora flying, which will then he will try to auto counter you. So in that case, try to stick to weaker strikes of the first or second part of the attack string, so it doesn't push them away. Okay, the last experiment that I'm going to try to do before I cut off this video is is I'm going to try to show you guys what happens if you fight multiple enemies of the same kind but ignore one or fight both and see if their values change. But in other words, what I'm trying to say is, let's say for example you fight two death scissors in this case, right? If you fight one and kill it at a maximum letter and you ignore the other one, you will still get the max value, is what I'm trying to say. And even if you kill both of them at max value, which is the other way you can do it, you will still get the same max value, for the simple fact that the same enemy variances in a single fight are worth the same thing as the first enemy you just killed of the same kind. So in other words, you killed one death scissor or two death scissors at max value, you make the same thing. Now, the other question people are wondering, which is the final thing I'll probably mention, is what happens if I kill the same type of enemy, the same type of enemy set, like for example here in mission 7, but there was another particular fight in a different mission where I killed the same type of enemies. Will I make the same values? The answer is no, for the simple fact that the first fight here and that fight there have different built-in preset values that the devs give the fights. Even though they're the same enemies, the devs give different set values, which I think is stupid personally, but that's just how it goes. So that's really the last type of thing I can give you. So in other words, even though you could fight certain enemies that you think have great values, doesn't mean another particular fight that you'll fight will have good values. Like for example, like Koiden Puzes, I don't know, are a good example. Like there's some fights where they give the impression that they pay off a lot, but then you could fight another same type of fight with it and it actually pays a lot less. So there's that as well. Okay, and there's one other thing I want to mention too that I also forgot to mention if I don't include it in my video. It's later on, I might show or might not. It's that there's also the addition of the tentacle enemies. Like the ones in Mission 1, for example, right? These enemies also are in particular really good, because for some odd reason, if you kill those tentacle enemies with the high letter, combined with another particular enemy, or even alone actually, the tentacles, and you kill the tentacles at like double S or triple S, you will get insane amounts of points. For some reason, they have a high base value, which is something I don't quite understand, but they do. I could demonstrate that on Mission 1 or Mission 2 if I want to show later. But here, I want to see if I can show you like how the values of like the scissors work. Oh, and another thing I wanted to mention for the scissors is even though the scissors can be killed in one hit by hitting their weak point, as long as you have a high letter before you kill them with their weak point in one hit at full health, you will get the max value regardless. I think I equipped the wrong breaker. Yeah, I'm gonna have to break all my breakers, sadly. Rip orbs. Damn, I should have changed breakers here. So what you want to do is just back off here and do the taunt if you can. And every time you break their guard, you get more points. Okay, that was actually a terrible fight. I haven't did this in a while, so I'm not comfortable with it. But you actually can kill these guys at that letter and do really well.
You can follow if you want.
But now I'm going to demonstrate by running away that if you kill an enemy at that value, you'll probably make, I don't know, maybe slightly above 6k. At max value, these guys are worth about 8,300 and something, I think. But I haven't done it in super long, so I'd have to get used to it again, which I don't really care about at the moment. I'm on a mount show. It's not showing my number. There we go. Okay. That's all I wanted to show, basically. Is that enemy at an S kill, I think that's an S kill, is worth 6,300 points without damaging it, unless the double was taken into account. But I think it only jumped to a double after I put the bullet in its face, so yeah, I'm not sure. Alright, I guess we could reload the checkpoint, maybe? And try to kill both at the same letter. However, I also forgot to mention is if you kill enemies at different letter values, you will get different numbers. So if you want to maintain the same value, you have to kill them at the exact same letter at the same exact health. Always, always, always. This is a terrible demonstration, I'll admit this, but... what I should do is do the air taunt later. I wish I could tilt the camera more upwards to not get scissor sniped here, but... what? I lost my letter. Ah. Okay, I don't feel like showing this, so I'm just gonna skip this for now. I'm too rusty at this. I should have practiced before making this video, but whatever. But my point stands. Now the last thing I wanted to show here, which I'm gonna try to show quickly, whether I get it or not, is... I don't know, let's just show mission 2, I guess. The checkpoint might not be very good for this, however. Okay, you know what? Let's see what 1 offers. Ah, oh, I'm on the wrong mode. Oh, I'm on Devil Hunter. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap up this video soon. There's not much else to explain. I pretty much explained everything that I wanted to, and from my commentary, that's basically all you need to know. Gotta love these load times. I guess I could try it here as well. Yeah, fuck it. I'll show it on Devil Hunter. I don't think it'll make a difference. And the point values might be slightly lower because I think on Devil Hunter enemies have a slightly lower value than they do on Son of Sparta and DMD, but I don't think the difference is that significant. Alright, anyways, these idiots, just skip all of them for this particular demonstration.
I'm really getting the hang of this new toy. What a mess.
Actually, this might actually even be a better example. You know what? We're actually going to do that. I'm actually glad I selected this mode. Okay. Are they still there? Okay, just making sure. I'm going to show you how these dudes are worth a lot if you can kill them. So what I want to do here is... I'm going to kill at least one of these guys. I'm going to ignore the other two, or at least try to. My letter dropped? Really? I don't know. Ah, this is a terrible spot to taunt. I don't know. Let's try it this way. I'm probably gonna get hit here. This is terrible, actually. Might get hit. Wow, okay, we got lucky. Alright, once that happens, go over and murder all the tentacles at triple S. There you go. And it should show my number here. 19,255. You see what I'm talking about here? How absolutely busted this game's ranking system is? Why the tentacles have such a high base value is something I will never understand. Now you're probably thinking, well, why didn't I just kill the tentacles? It's for the simple fact and purpose that I wanted to show the style number. Because in order to actually see the style number and reach the next checkpoint, you have to kill one normal enemy variant, which in this case was the Impuza. Because even though the tentacles are taken into account for the point value, the total is usually not shown unless you kill a normal enemy variant with it. Why that is, I don't know. But anyways. So yeah, that's that. So basically, any mission that you see a tentacle with and you have enemies around that where you can get that letter up and then kill those tentacles at a high letter, do it. A great example is mission 2. Whenever you go to the street area with the red crystal Impuza where you can make the red orbs off of it, try to style on that thing a little bit. Even at an A, it still works quite a bit. Try to get to an S, and then kill the 3 tentacles on the street right afterwards, and you will probably hold like an 8k average most of the mission. It's crazy. Where if you ignore it, you're lucky if you'll have 6k most of the mission. Again, we're talking DMD mode here, but anyways. So yeah, guys, that's gonna pretty much wrap up this video. I hope this cleared up anybody's questions of how to make good scores in this game. I'm sorry I failed a little bit on that one strat with the Death Scissors, but honestly, if you know how to combo them well and break their guard and get triple S, it's not that hard to do. There's probably some good videos online, or maybe my Mission 7 demonstration will show a little more there, but yeah, that's going to be it. If you guys enjoyed this video, drop some likes if you like, and I hope it answered any questions that people have been wanting to know. So take care, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Take care, guys, and see you next time. Peace out.